Hello and welcome to the Election Corner on One Man Think Tank. Today we're going to be talking about the 2020 statewide elections in Montana, namely the Senate and presidential elections. We won't really be talking about governor. Actually, that's all we'll be talking about governor, to say how we're not talking about it. Now, let's start off with looking at the polls, starting with the Senate race, which contains former governor, soon to be, Bullock, versus current Republican Senator Steve Daines. So, safe Steve either way. As you can see by the general trend in polling, Steve Bullock has had a sudden decline in October, while Daines has gained a sudden increase. So let's take a look at the polling. And as you can see, overall, early on there was really good numbers for Steve Bullock, then very good numbers for Steve Daines, and now they seem to be trading off. I will say, Steve Bullock does have his only good number from Data for Progress, which I believe probably was an internal, though I'm not 100%. While Emerson is a pretty well-known pollster with a slight R bias, but not slight enough that it would result in Steve Daines losing points. Rather, a lot of these undecideds will turn out to be Democrats later on. So, what does this tell us about the race so far? If you actually look at it, Steve Bullock has managed to hold a pretty consistent mid-40s area, between about 44 and 48%, which has been consistent throughout. While Steve Daines, starting off very low with a lot of undecideds, most of those undecideds broke Republican, giving him about 50% of the vote. Overall, giving him an advantage, but keep in mind, depending on which one you're looking at, sometimes they broke hard for him, sometimes they didn't break so hard for him. So the race could still be up in the air, but it could be a little bit more intense than the seeming blowout it might be for the Republicans, or safe seat it might be for the Republicans. But in order to talk about that, we need to go back in time, and we're not going to do that till we talk about the presidential election this year, and you'll have to forgive me, allergies are wonderful this time of year. So, in Donald Trump versus Joe Biden, we have a completely different trend. Donald Trump has held between low and high 50s the entire time, while Joe Biden has held between low and mid 40s. You don't get much safer than that. Joe Biden has had no significant gain in the state, and Trump has had no significant decrease, and vice versa. They both basically have straight lines. We're seeing some undecideds eliminated just about here, which is why we're seeing a little bit of a step up for Trump, but otherwise nothing really to say here other than at the presidential level it's pretty safe. So let's go back in time and look at the presidential breakdowns for each a year. Back to 2000, starting with 2016. This was Donald Trump versus Hillary Clinton. Donald Trump won in a blowout. As you can see, he was very successful. He got some very good support in the rural areas, giving me the dark blues, and also, as you'll see, in the city areas of the state, he managed to get, city areas, and I think this is the Native American portion, I'm not sure. He managed to really whittle down Hillary Clinton's numbers. To give you an idea how unpopular Clinton was in this state, I believe this was the only state where the Libertarian candidate broke 5%, which is a fun fact and also based on the small population of Montana, but it really says something that the Libertarian polled at 5%. Any third-party candidate polling at 5% in a state shows disapproval of not just one, but both of the major candidates, but really hurts whoever is not normally in favor of, the state's not normally in favor of, in this case, the Democrats. So, let's compare this to 2012, where, as you can see, all of a sudden the state gets notably more blue. This was Barack Obama versus Mitt Romney. And Obama managed to pull in some more blue support in the northern part of the state, namely in the Native American reservation portions. But as you can see, this sort of rural center portion, farmerland, still went incredibly red for Mitt Romney. Back to 2008, blimey, you have Barack Obama versus John McCain, and now you're seeing some big differences. Barack Obama did really well in the state. He didn't win, but he did really well. As you can see, a lot of likeness. And while you still got the dark red here, Obama basically is narrowing the margins everywhere. So, back to 2004. Oh, this actually looks really familiar to the Trump map of 2016. See how similar they look? It actually doesn't look much like the Barack Obama maps. Got this hard red core in the state with these outlying blue areas. Same thing in 2000. Gore v. Bush. Hardcore red, like nice chewy blue outside, hard red center. And lastly, let's look at the Montana Senate election from 2018 or 2018, which was won by the Democrats. And as you can see, and also this is an important note, had roughly the same turnout as this election. So it's not like, oh, well, it was lower turnout for the Republicans. I think the Republicans only got 50,000 fewer votes in total, but overall turnout was about the same, which says a lot about Hillary Clinton, honestly. But as you can see, a lot of pink. All of a sudden, that hard red core has become a soft, chewy center, while the outside is becoming notably more blue. We're seeing a lot more areas lean ever so slightly blue. So what does this tell us? It tells us Montana is a pretty big fan of voting based on the individual candidate as opposed to the party. Now, overall, at the presidential election, they will go hard red. This is not shocking. Expect Joe Biden to see a map similar to this, or maybe 2008's map. But for the Senate election, we're getting this more nougaty area. Let's actually look at the exact numbers. I don't know why I'm using a candy analogy, just go with it. So Trump got 279,000 votes. Hillary Clinton only got 177,000. Well, Bill Weld got 28,000. Good for him. Not Bill Weld. Sorry, Gary Johnson. Meanwhile, in the Senate election, as you can see, the Republicans got 235,000. About 236, actually. Well, John Tester got 253,000, almost 254,000. So if we compare these numbers, that's actually, can't do the math off the top of my head, but almost higher turnout than what occurred in this race. Emphasis on almost. About 50,000 votes less. So what does this mean? This means if you run a solid campaign as a Democrat, especially well, I'm not going to be doing much attention in this race. I'm not going to do much at the national level to make Montanans have to care. You probably can win. So don't be surprised if on election day, especially given the fact we're having a hard time telling where Bullock is polling at, because, look, when comparing the numbers, we've got a lot more about the presidential race than we do about the Senate race. And it could favor incumbency and give it to Daines, or it could favor Steve Bullock and just be a tad whingy on it, because also a lot of these guys have a slight Republican bias, especially like in a case of like Emerson, where we know most of the undecideds will end up going for the Democratic candidates. Emerson's really good at predicting winners, for the most part, but they are really bad at predicting margins. And usually their undecideds end up going for the Democrats in this case. But with that being said, if you like the video, drop a like down below, and also feel free to put a comment about your feelings about the Montana race. If you want to see more from the channel, click the subscribe button and the notification bell so you can be alerted when new content comes out. If you want to hear more from me outside of YouTube, I have a Twitter at OneManThinkTan1, the Roman numeral, link in the description. Otherwise, most importantly, have a wonderful day.